Now I want to take you into finishing 3 photographs taken down there by the creek this morning. And I'm going to show you in a kind of a, we could say a logical progression, how I look at and think about these images and finishing them. So first thing I'm going to do is, of course, tap the F key, Control Command 0 to fill the monitor with it, move it over. Now, what's the subject? The subject is really this path, both of the frozen water, the ice, and the grass. Now, the grass itself isn't doing much right now, so let's just punch it up. I'm going to come over to Filter, Nik Software, Color Effect 3.0. I'm going to grab one of my favorites, Brilliance and Warmth. I'm going to bring up the warmth, okay? It's very important. Color is how the eye works, and a warmth, warm color versus the white ice makes the ice look even colder. And then I'm going to sit here and bring it up as far as brightness. Click OK. It's going to click that, create that layer with it. I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key, click on my layer mask. Now I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to say about 50% opacity. And I'm going to follow this path with my painting. And I'm simply going to bring some of the direction out with the warmth of the brilliance of warmth. And I'm going to work it. I'm going to keep going back and forth subtly. I'm working with a soft edge brush. Now all these directions, of course, are where? Leading back up here. I'm working the directions so the eye will be brought back and through the photograph with these colors and these lines. So if I go over here and go to before and after, subtle difference, but it's important. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the adjustment layers, curves. I'm going to go to brighter. You guessed it, I'm going to go work on that ice. I'm going to fill that layer with Control, Backspace, Command Delete. I'm going to go at 20% opacity, and I'm going to bring down this line to the eye. So first is this main line I'm going to work on. Then I'm going to work on this little bit of ice over here and over here. And now you can see I've brought this up. So far what have we done? Go back to our bottom layer, hold down the Alt Option key. You can see I'm changing the way the eye is going through the scene. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to darken the corners. So I'm going to hold down the Shift Control Alt E or Shift Command Option E. That's going to take and make a sample of all these, make it into a new layer. Go back to Filter, Distort, Lens Correction, and I'm going to bring down the corners. I'm doing that because I want to force the eye towards the center. That's where the subject is. That's where the eye should go in the photograph. Simply bring down the corners. Say OK. It's applying the filter. Now let's look at the before and the after. Very subtle changes to finish the photograph, and that's the main point. So we can do a complete save as, do it as a PSD. Off it goes to the hard drive. Now, every time I look at a photograph, I'm always going to be constantly thinking about where's the eye going to go? Where do I want the eye to go? And then working in Photoshop so where I want it to go and where it goes are one and the same. That's the key thing here. We want the eye to follow through the photograph so the viewer is seeing the same thing that we saw at the point of capture and is getting the message from the photograph, which is often the feeling we got at the time of capture, and make it into one. So let's go to the next photograph. Okay, Control or Command 0, make it large. Now here's the same kind of basic subject, the grasses and the ice, but I'm going to treat it totally different. Because for me, it's not a color photograph. It's a black and white. So I'm going to go over here to Adjustment Layers, Black and White. Yes, there's many ways of going to black and white conversion. I like this because it's quick, it's simple, it brings out the blacks and the whites that I want. So I'm going to bring the slider over here, my eyedropper, you can see it in the ice. Hold in front of the gray, left click, bring up a squeegee, and I can sit there and instantly start changing that density in that right there. Just that simple. Now, I want that ice to be brighter. So I'm going to simply use curves this time because I want to be very selective. Okie dokie. I'm going to fill that layer. Get out my brush and make it larger. I'm going to go to 10% opacity because I don't want anybody to see my foot tracks. A little bit smaller. And I'm going to bring down this kind of shape. I'm going to be sure I don't mess with that highlight from the sun trying to break through the clouds. I'm going to go before and after. You can see there's a pretty dramatic effect pretty quickly here between the two photographs. So come back over here, before and after, before and after. It works really amazingly well. Simple. Now let's go to one last photograph. This photograph here, we already did that one. This one here, we're going to go all the way back up to taking it completely to black and white. Because at this point, this color photograph, it isn't working. It just doesn't have the elements in a color realm to make it interesting. At least I don't think so. So right off the bat, when I took the picture, I knew I was going to black and white. Bring up our black and white adjustment layer curve. We'll come over here and to the grays. Not much of a change. Go to darker grays. Not making much of a change. That's okay. Because I'm going to say okie dokie. Because now I'm going to make the big change. The big change is going to come in the contrast. And I'm going to make a very simple S-curve, contrast curve. I'm going to simply yank it down, and I'm looking visually at the photograph. I'm doing no more than looking at that photograph. Bring up the contrast. Okie dokie. Now, here's the before. There's the after. Before and after. So I'm looking at things very quickly, very simply. In this process, I have these 4 trunks right here. This is those 3, which are kind of the dominant features in the photograph. I'm going to make them a little bit more so. Adjustment layer curves, brightness, okie dokie, fill that layer. I'm going to take my brush, make it really small, go to 50% opacity, and I'm just simply going to come right down that trunk, come down this trunk, come down this trunk, do it again on this trunk. Now, see if I can make it a little brighter by simply adjusting this curve. I'll come back over to my contrast layer. I'm going to make the contrast a little bit punchier. There's my very quick and simple black and white to finish this photograph. Hold down the Alt or Option key. See the before and after. Now the whole point is you want to see this in the viewfinder. You want to have these techniques in your mind so you're finishing them technically in the computer, but you've done it at the point of capture. Very simple, very quick. I'm in and out, which all the techniques I ever do in post are very quick, in and out, because I'm going to try to get as much finished at the point of capture as I can. That's what photography is all about.